Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to have you all joining us today. It is going to be a fabulous webinar with all sorts of amazing, inspiring pieces of information for you to think about for your own communities, thinking about how you can get more engaged with the BPNN. So as I welcome all of you, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and type in the chat. Who are you? We want to know who's here with us today. Where are you joining us from? And what hat are you wearing? Some of us wear lots of them. But my name is Kara Georgi. I live in New York and I work with the Children's Trust Fund Alliance as the Alliance National Parent Partnership Associate. That's a really long, fancy way to say I get to work with our parent networks. And the Birth Parent National Network has become one of my favorite to work with, just because getting to know each of you, getting to meet you and hear what your dreams are for your work in your community, your state, and even nationally. It is so inspiring to me as a mom. And I am really excited about our presentation today that is all about parents and the wonderful opportunities that they have had. I see we have people from Arizona, we have people in Utah, South Carolina, Alabama, North Carolina. We have several friends. Welcome. I love it. I'm seeing familiar names, new names. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited you are joining us. We have some of our partners from Casey Family Programs here. We have Teresa Rafael, the Executive Director of the Children's Trust Fund Alliance, along with Meryl Levine, our Senior Associate. She is back from vacation a little early just so she could be here with all of you because she is so excited. But what I want to share, as you're all sharing who you are and what role you're in, is I want to introduce our amazing facilitators today. So today I have with us Johnny Norris and Isabel Regalato, who will be helping to facilitate today's webinar. They're going to help us with our transitions. They're going to help watch the chat so we make sure that we hear all your great questions, because throughout this entire presentation, if something pops in your mind you want to ask somebody, put it in the chat. We love watching the chat. Get all busy and filled with your ideas. Johnny, I'd like you to go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and why you feel the BPNN is a great opportunity. What do you think?
Well, thank you, Kara. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I am Johnny Norris. I'm a birth parent, father, member of the BPNN here. And I believe that, what the BPNN offers is just an amazing opportunity for birth parents all over to be able to connect with the other birth parents, as well as people, people in charge. I can't even think what I'm trying to say, but it's just amazing an opportunity with these conferences. And I thank you for that, Kara.
Absolutely, Johnny. And I agree, because there's so many different pieces to partnering, right? And I think that's exactly what you're hitting on, Johnny, is all those partners, all the different ways that those relationships work, because we know relationships is where the magic's really at. And with that, I want to pass to Isabel and just thank you for joining us today, Isabel, and ask if you would go ahead. And why do you think the BPNN is a great opportunity for parents?
Good morning, everybody. Isabel Regalado here. I think the BPNN is an excellent opportunity to give the parent voice, give a podium to give the parent voice out there and make it known or bring attention to parents' needs, family needs. And it allows all of us parents to bring that to the attention of the community, up to our heads, our administration, our legislators, our state, even our president. It's just an awesome opportunity, and it's a lot of opportunity to get that voice out there. I just really love the opportunity to work. I love that word opportunity because it has so many open doors.
Thanks, Isabel, and I would absolutely agree. That opportunity is what today's all about. I encourage each of you to think about, as you hear the public policy update, how does that play out for you in your state? I encourage you to think about who else could you be inviting to the network to sit on these calls and hear this and become partners with you. I encourage you, when you listen to our amazing panel today, how could you do something like that in your work? Today is all about that passion. And both Johnny and Isabel, you have such passion for the work, and it's been fun getting to know you. And I think what's important about our network is we each bring different strengths, different perspectives. And it's because of those different strengths and perspectives that our network is so strong. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Isabel to go ahead and review our agenda for today.
Hello, everyone. We have a great agenda lined up for today. We will start hearing an informative public policy update from Lauren from Casey Family Programs. After, she will take some questions and answers. We will also hear a short update on how parents are engaged in work related to implementation of the Family First Prevention Services Act. That's a mouthful there, in their jurisdictions. We will then transition to our panel of BPNN members who are using their parent voice in creative and impactful ways. We will then end our time taking final questions and completing the evaluation for today. We encourage you to use the chat and put questions throughout our time together. Looking forward. Thank you. Let's go ahead. We're excited to have Lauren Bischutti from Casey Family Programs here to share an informative policy update with us all. Thank you, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Great to be with you all. Kara, could you please move to the next slide? So I'm going to talk about three things in this short update. One is I was asked to provide a quick update on where Family First prevention plans are in terms of their status on either being submitted or approved. And so this is, as of earlier this week, this is where we are in terms of approved plans and submitted plans. We are expecting several more to be coming in the next couple weeks or months ahead. So we'll continue to provide updates to you all on here. Just a quick note, this group has talked a lot about Family First, and I know you're going to talk more about it this afternoon in the webinar. This is, states have the opportunity to submit their plan for Family First prevention services at any point, and tribes, eligible tribes. We are thrilled that there are several states up and running with their approved plans and a tribe. We're also thrilled to see more states submitting in recent weeks and another tribe submitting in recent weeks. And we're really, looking forward to seeing what this means for changing how services are provided to prevent unnecessary entries into foster care for children and their families, and really in a family-centered way. Just as a reminder, we've talked a little bit about this, but back at the end of December, in a larger piece of legislation at the federal level, there was increased federal dollars and flexibility around these plans. So Congress continues to really support the implementation of Family First. As part of that, they provided 100% federal dollars to cover the Family First Prevention Services plan through September 30th of this year, which is the end of the fiscal year. And so what that means is for all these 12 states and tribes that have approved plans through September 30th, they are getting 100% federal dollars to provide the services that are in their plans, as well as the administrative and training costs. Which is just a really, really great opportunity to really, maximize and fully, take advantage of this opportunity. For those that have submitted plans, they're able to pull down federal dollars at 100% through September 30th for the training and administration costs. And once they get approved, they can also pull down 100% of those federal dollars for the services themselves. And so when we hear about, the capacity building and the upfront training and things like that, this is just something to remember to continue to in your education and engagement on this with various stakeholders to continue to remind them about this opportunity, and see where your state is at. And if it's not on here, to continue to really push for getting those in, and really making sure that they are reflective of things that parents and others in your community really want to see in those plans. The second thing I want to talk about is CAPTA reauthorization. So CAPTA is the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act. It is a federal law that provides great grants to states, territories, and tribes to really support a range of things on the front end of the system. So around prevention, assessments, investigations, and treatment of child abuse and neglect. This group, I know, cares so deeply about prevention. I know cares so deeply about really redesigning the front end of the child welfare system. And so I wanted to make sure you all were aware that that this piece of legislation at the federal level, it's already a part of federal law, and it is up for reauthorization, which means that Congress is considering changes to the law. And so the House of Representatives has a piece of legislation. They had it last Congress. They have reintroduced it. And the Senate is also expected to have something very soon. And so this is, as you're thinking about ways to engage and things to think about, in your policy work at the federal level, we wanted to make sure that this is, you were aware of this, and we can certainly provide more details on it. Just in this short update, wanted to make sure that you were aware that this is something that, is very actively being discussed in Congress, and is a really big opportunity to really think about how we can better align what we know from listening to all of you and your expertise and experience, really align that with what the federal policy framework looks like on the very front end of our system. And then next slide, please. The third thing I wanted to flag for everyone here, and I know that equity and race equity in the child welfare system is such an important part of what this group cares about and is working towards. On the day that he was inaugurated back in January, President Biden signed an executive order on advancing racial equity. And within that, there were a number of different charges across the federal government for work products or activities. One of them, one of many, was really establishing some specific work around advancing equity by the Office of Management and Budget, OMB. OMB has now put out, to inform that work, a request for information, and they're really looking for the public. So that can be you as an individual, the group you work on, it can be public, private, it can be a faith-based, it can be any kind of group, or you as an individual responding to this request for information. The link here, and I'll make sure we have it in the chat too, provides more details about it. And wanted to make sure you all were aware of this as something you might consider, individually or through different networks that you're involved in, consider responding to. This is not child welfare specific. We know that it is really for thinking about how to advance equity and support in underserved communities. So however best, you would think about wanting to respond, we would encourage you to consider it. Comments are due by July 6th. In that link, there is, some specifics around how to actually provide the comments, and we're always here as a resource if you have more questions about that. We just really wanted to, one of the areas we thought that might be particularly of interest to this group is there are some questions around how should the federal government be optimally engaging with people in underserved communities? How might that look? What would that be to be look like to be empowered and to really play a role? And so would just encourage you all to take a look, consider this as something, in part of your ongoing work to provide comments on. And the comments are due on July 6th. And with that, I'm going to pause and just see if there are any questions. Any questions? It doesn't look like.
Lauren, I have a question.
Okay.
This is Jessica Lloyd Rogers from Oregon. I noticed that there is a lot more money being put into family preservation before entering the system, which is really exciting. But I'm wondering if there's been much attention paid to reunification, and emphasizing reunification once a child has been removed. You know, you probably know the national statistics is 47% of the children removed get reunified, which is abysmal, in my personal opinion. Sorry, little judgment there. And that's gone down actually in the last couple of years, a 3% drop, I think, in 2 years. So I'm wondering if there is as much emphasis on reunification as there is on preserving the families. Not that one is more important than the other, but because I work with children who are already the parents of children who are already in the system. So
Yeah, great question, and great, you know, of course, there has been so much attention, rightfully so, in that very, you know, preventing from the beginning the unnecessary placement or separation of families. And on the reunification side, yes, there are, you know, Title 4B has some dollars that are dedicated to that. That will be another area of reauthorization and federal law in the coming months ahead. And so I'm sure we will be talking about that with this group as well, and engaging you all so that you can be equipped to really be engaged in that conversation and inform that work. A couple of things immediately come to mind. So one, right now during the pandemic, that federal law requires that no child can be aging out of foster care. We have really strongly been encouraging, you know, and with others, to use that opportunity for reunification, for permanency, for really engaging deeper and really prioritizing that. I know there are so many additional you know, spaces where reunification is such a focus, where federal dollars, that really is where we are, you know, as a field, really pushing for the family preservation across the continuum. And so I think, you know, with Title 4B reauthorization, there will be an opportunity at the federal level to think about that funding stream and supports in that space. I think, you know, there are, you know, with Family First, also ways to engage the family differently, you know, and to really be more intentional and provide the supports around reunification as well.
okay. Thank you. We have a small state summit coming up in June for reunification, and the National Council of State Affiliates from NFPA. We're also focusing on reunification for our annual meeting. So I might be in touch with you about more resources if you don't mind.
Of course.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. And if there are no other questions at this point, Isabel, I think I'll turn it back over to you. And you're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lauren. We appreciate so much you sharing your most valuable information. With that, I will turn it back over to Kara now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Isabel. And I think what's important as we think about things is also to be thinking about things in terms of policy. When Lauren shares these updates, how does that work for you? Meaning, what is your opportunity? And I wanted to share this as an additional resource and opportunity for our Birth Parent National Network of a collaboration that we're doing with Family Voices United. It is all about helping parents and constituents, including youth and kinship care providers. What is the Family First Prevention Services Act? Helping us with tools, supports. And one of the things that you might see when I send you lots of emails, I know I do, but this is one opportunity when I share your perspective. Sometimes people are like, what is that, Kara? And share your perspective is an opportunity where we raise up a question and we want to hear from the network. your responses, your thoughts, your ideas. And as we share those share your perspective questions, there's an opportunity for you to win a gift card just for sharing your brain and the wonderful ideas you have. So I encourage you to watch for those because they come out monthly. It's a great opportunity to share. The whole website on Family Voices United is jam-packed full of resources, things like videos and podcasts and short quotes with different members from our network who have shared their photo in with a powerful quote. And why I share that is because sometimes as we share as parents, they're like, well, that's your perspective, Kara. And I'm like, no, I'm raising up a perspective of other parents I've talked to, other people I've heard from. And sometimes we need those additional resources or things that just help us to better understand what is the Family First Prevention Services Act. And you'll see in today's feedback summary, that's one of the questions we want to know. Are you engaged in your state? Do you want to be engaged? Because maybe you're not yet. Maybe you're just like, what is that? Can you give me more information? We want to help inform you of what's going on in terms of policy and practice, because that's what impacts our everyday when we're trying to raise our children and build our communities as strong as we can. So if you have not checked out this website, I encourage you to do that, because Family Voices United is built on partnership, and partnership is where that magic really truly happens. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Johnny to introduce our amazing panel for today. Johnny.
All right, thank you, Kara. So we are excited to have several of our BPNN members with us today to share about the work they have been doing and how they have used their parent voice in their work. I encourage you to type questions in the chat, and we will take time after all the panelists are finished to raise some of those questions and answer what we might get to. First up, I would like to invite Dustin and David to share about some work they're doing with fathers in their local Oregon community.
All right. Well, good morning, guys. Name's David. I am a member of what is called the Fathers Advisory Board. We're here to kind of just present ourselves and let you guys know who we are and what we're about. Obviously I'm a birth parent who had some struggles in the beginning and had to go through child welfare to get my kids back. I completed the reunification process of about 2-3 years ago, something like that, about 2 years ago. And I was invited onto the Father Advisory Board through Dustin here to give a voice to fathers who are in the process of reunification. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of read off our little slides. And if you guys have questions, I'm going to refer to Dustin because he has way more information, has been on this board way longer than I have. So the Father Advisory Board advocates for equitable treatment of fathers impacted by child welfare systems. So pretty much what it is the systems of child welfare are really geared towards mothers. And what we're trying to do is trying to create a paradigm shift and help fathers, because there are more and more fathers getting involved in the system and getting reunification taken care of. I myself got my children back within the first month of them being in foster care. But however, they kept the case open for a year so that the children's mother could try to get reunification and meet those goals. That did not happen. However, I had the children the whole time. Next slide, please. Okay, so the FAB, we have several different types, we have several different memberships, right? So we have the fathers, who are former consumers of child welfare who can use their lived experience and represent voices of fathers currently navigating the system. So we have men on the board who have been in this system, right? And then we also have community partners who are able to bring their expertise and multiple viewpoints to assist the board in projects. We have people that are in collaboration with DHS. We also bring other community partners that we feel are fit for us. And we can get more into that if people have questions, okay? And then of course, we have the Oregon Department of Human Services, ODHS, who provides guidance, opportunities, and support for the board. So we are, so they're sort of like our oversight committee, isn't that correct, Dustin? It's to sort of give us oversight and provide guidance for us to work within. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, so what do? So we provide informational panels to local and state agencies concerning fathers receiving ODHS services. So when ODHS does new hires and they're hiring a new group of caseworkers and so on and so forth, we come in during one of their training days, and we give them, information and ideas and training, just so that these new caseworkers can kind of get a sense and a feel of what types of parents they're going to be working with, especially fathers. We come in and we tell them, this was our experience. This is what we think could happen. This could be better. This is what needs to be changed. And just to try to give a more inclusive idea to what these new hires are going to be working with. Okay. So we also seek and locate community partners to assist within projects and goals. So we will come. So if let's say there's an ask, there's a situation or a thing that we are trying to change. A lot of times we'll find community partners that are dealing with the same exact thing, or even specialize in a scenario that we're trying to work with. And so we'll try to bring them in partnership with them. Okay. And then number 3, work with ODHS on issues that can be refined to help fathers succeed. And that's really simple. All we do is we look at the system, the things that ODHS offers and does, and we try to get it geared towards fathers as well. It's not just the mothers, but fathers as well. Some, a lot of times we'll have parents who are together in their ODHS case. And then most times though, parents they're not together, and a lot of the systems are geared towards the mother, which makes it more difficult, or as difficult as it is already, but it makes it even more difficult for the father to find success within the system. So what we do is we look at the systems and the programs they have and see what we can do to change that, to give fathers a greater chance of success in reunification. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So through these 3 actions, we try to create a sustainable system of change to help fathers achieve greater success while navigating our own family goals. Every family has their own set of goals and requirements they need for reunification, and we're just trying to make it that much easier, and that give it that much more of a higher percentage of fathers being able to complete that goal. Next slide. Okay, so what we're doing, these are a couple of things we're going to be working on within the next 2 years. Go ahead and, okay, so one of the issues is we've actually been tackling this issue for a while, and this is going to take a while, but we're going to keep going at it. So in our area, there are 76 residential treatment spaces for moms with children. For fathers, there are only 2 residential spaces. Okay, this is something I actually personally had dealt with. So when I went into rehab, it was an all men's rehab, but there was no space for my children. So, they stayed with their mother. And then what happened was, when their mother ended up suffering from substance abuse issues as well. So our children were taken into DHS custody. They got taken to DHS custody because I was already in rehab, but I was not in a rehab that would allow for children. And the mother was off doing their own thing. So I had to leave rehab early that I was in and go into a program that would allow me to have my children. And the program I was in was a family-centered program, but that could have been different had there been more residential beds for somebody, a father like me, to be in. So what are we doing? We're working with local community funders, treatment centers, and the Oregon State Legislature to create more residential said spaces for fathers and their children. And this is going to be ongoing. This is going to go on for a while. This isn't going to change overnight, but this is something we're all really passionate about. Reason being is that all of us on this board, all the fathers on this board have all dealt with this in one way or another. Okay, and so another issue we're trying to tackle this year is fathers trying to navigate visitation with their children for the first time while the children are in CPS custody. Oftentimes, after you had your kids taken by CPS, and they schedule you your first visit, you don't know what to do. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how to access certain types of resources. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to gather these resources, how transportation, other ideas. What are you going to bring to the first visit? What are you allowed to do? We're trying to get all those kind of questions that we have before our first visit into like a central location, like a pamphlet, where where you can be handed like, hey, okay, so this is your first visit with your child. Here's a pamphlet for you to go over and try to help you get prepared. It's already emotionally bad enough for a father to have their kids taken away. Now they have to go visit their children while being supervised by a CPS employee, right? And so there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of unanswered things, and we're trying to make it easier and get that information more accessible so that they can have a better outcome on their visits. And so what we're doing is we're gathering up to date and useful information to put into a pamphlet for fathers to access resources and information for visitation, such as what to expect during the visitation, how to access transportation, and to and from visitation sites, and just various other things. So next slide, please. Okay, so that is just kind of a broad overview of what we do at the Fatherhood Advisory Board. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dustin. If you guys have any questions, you can fill in things that I probably missed. So take it away, Dustin.
Thank you so much, David. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Dustin McClard. I'm a senior parent mentor with Morrison Child and Family Services in Portland, Oregon, and a member of the Fathers Advisory Board. I'm going to share and highlight today one of those ways that we were able to connect with community partners to assist the dads in our community. This idea actually started from a light conversation at one of our meetings, as 4 of the members were having a conversation about the time that they didn't have with their children while they were in residential treatment. We had, I believe there was 4 dads there at the time, and we'd all gone to 3 different treatment centers. And what we had found in our conversations is that none of us had a space to be able to have any type of parenting or family time with our kids in our time there. That's where this little light bulb clicked on, is how can we support the residential treatment centers that we were alumni and we went to be able to have a different experience. To be able to have a different experience as we had. How we did that was we knew right away that we didn't want to go back to these treatment centers and say that this is how it has to be. Our individual experiences were not we weren't going to make the changes without them wanting to make the changes, I think is what I'm trying to say. And so the first thing we did is we went and talked to the directors of the three residential centers in the Portland area. 2 out of those 3 residential centers, we were able to meet with the directors and explain our experience and what our thoughts were and how we could assist dads that were currently utilizing their services, knowing that healthy relationships and parenting time is a huge motivating factor for anybody early in recovery. And our next step was that we met with, and we kind of did like a divide and conquer for these, because we had different connections at each of these centers. I connected with one of them, and the 2 other members of the Fathers Advisory Board connected with the other one. And we next met with the parenting class. We spoke with the parenting class there, some of the dads that were in the group, and asked them just a general light conversation. If they would want something like this, if this is something that would be useful and helpful for them in their recovery and their relationship with their kids. And it was overwhelmingly verbalized right away that yes, they were interested. We also wanted to put that in some type of a data. So over the next, I think maybe 2 to 3 months, we, with permission from these centers, were able to collect some surveys, anonymous surveys. I believe there was somewhere in the amount of like 120 surveys that dads that were in the parenting class, and also dads that were not in the parenting class, but were still in the centers, filled out. And the questions on there were like, if you had a space here, or if you had a comfortable environment, would you want to visit with your child? Is there child welfare involvement? In which ways would you like to see a more holistic approach to family time while you are in this residential center? And then we were able to connect with Portland State University's I won't call it department, data team, who was able to take our surveys and put them into data so we could really see where the trends and what the dads in these treatment centers were hoping for. And we wanted to really involve dads that were in the treatment centers in creating their own space. What we were thinking of, my words are getting jumbled. What we were really trying to think ahead of was that we didn't want to go into the centers and make and create a space that was going to be temporary. We were hoping to be able to support the men that were there in being able to create and maintain the space long-term for future clients that are involved there. And the next thing we did was we looked for donations, which this one really fell into our lap very easily. We got really lucky to where one of the executive directors at Volunteers of America had a office full of donations that she had recently received, from toys to coloring books and easels to be able to like make those big pictures and paint stuff, and just a lot of stuff for kids to be able to have. We were able to get a rug from a local community warehouse, which was really helpful for one of the centers area. The place, when they did have time for their kids, it was a hallway with concrete on it, a very narrow hallway. So being able just to get like a rug to have like a comfortable somewhere to sit down with your kiddos just changed the energy a little bit for one of the centers there. And then what we did was we helped the client council, which is generally the leadership of the treatment centers, kind of like the mentors of the treatment centers that have been there for a while, and they're helping other new guys that are coming in. We worked with them to be able to develop and create a plan about how to implement these changes that they've made to their spaces on more of a long term. And then we did a follow-up. I think 6 months and then a year later. And both the spaces and both the centers that we were able to assist create were both still there. One of them had gotten a little bit back to where it was before. Space is something that I think, no matter who you are and what you're doing, space is probably something that we all don't have enough of, and this was the case for this one. And I have to say that the other treatment center that we were able to connect with, I went there right before the pandemic started to drop a dad off after we went to a meeting to providing some support. And as I'm walking through and saying goodbye and checking him in, I'm looking over, and it was evening time and like their visiting time, and I see the space in the corner of my eye with 2 or 3 dads over there. One of them has an infant sitting on the ground playing with a toy, and the other couple dads are just kind of hanging out, sitting on the ground on a little couch that they got. And this was 2 years later after we went in there. So just to be able to see that made me know that we were, the Fathers Advisory Board was able to create some local change. And I would certainly hope, and also from like a preventative measure, I'm thinking about myself, and I won't speak for anybody else, but like I know that when I was early in recovery and I was residential treatment, I didn't have a lot of time with my kids. They were newborns, so being in any type of like a clinical setting wasn't going to be helpful or comfortable. And there's times that I wanted to leave. That wasn't the only reason, but there's times that I was really struggling to leave, and I had to be talked out of being able to stay. And from the preventative side, I'm thinking that, you know, if dads have every opportunity, not some, not you know, not maybe after you get to a certain point in your treatment or a place in your child welfare case, but every opportunity to build and sustain relationship with their kids is going to be beneficial for the family holistically. Healthy relationships. I heard it earlier today, I believe, from Cara. Being able to assist with building healthy relationships is something that I'm grateful to be able to do today. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share. And if there's any questions, I know for David or myself, we'll do our best to answer them.
Dustin and David, I have a question for you as we get ready to transition. And I want you to be thinking on this because at the end of the panel, we're going to really open up the floor for all of our panelists. But what I want Dustin and David thinking on is one that came up in the chat of, we've had this conversation for so long about the importance of fathers. How do we move it to action? And so I'm going to invite both of you to think on that as we let Sharonda present next. And then when we open up to questions, we'll lead with you, Dustin and David, maybe sharing on that because that came up quite a bit.
Thank you so much, Dustin and David, for your presentation and for once again heightening and definitely elevating our most essential, which are our dads. We need them in our lives, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of the action that happens in your community. I'm Sharonda Sullivanoff here in Washington State. I'm a BPNN member. I'm also a member of the birth parent foster parent, and a kinship caregiver to my absolutely amazing, beautiful grandson. I've had a multitude of different experiences in child welfare. And so I am really pleased to have this time with you today as we have had some monumental legislative changes here in Washington State. I'm a part of a group. We were at the time called Turn Foster Care on Its Head. But as you know, that's not very strength-based. And so we changed our name to Keeping Families Together. And so we were able to move actually two major pieces of legislation. And as a director of public policy over at Children's Home Society, another piece of legislation that all is in direct contact and impacts families and child welfare. The first piece of legislation that we were able to get passed was House Bill 1194. And what that essentially did is it is now the presumption of unsupervised visitation. What we know is that a majority of families that come into child welfare are there for poverty-related reasons. We also know that the system itself finds lots of different ways to police and surveil families, visitation being one of those. It is important for families to be able to be in natural settings and for them to receive the right messaging. When children continuously watch their parents being supervised, it sends a message, and the message is, my parent is not safe and I'm not safe with my parent. That is not true. And so currently the way that the system of course worked, and I'm sure you guys have all had your own experiences, is that by the time you're ready to return children, you know, within weeks or a month or two, then you're willing to move to unsupervised. In that time, parents have done an incredible amount of work and transformation and, you know, service, being in the middle of services, and are doing a lot of, you know, their own personal work and then meeting the criteria and their parameters put forth by the system. And so what we like to be able to say is that, and I'll just use drug addiction as an example. If drug addiction is identified as a safety risk, then the obvious answer is that I go to treatment. I, you know, am able to present for, let's say, 90 days of clean UAs. And then I'm at unsupervised visitation. And that's just not the way that it works, but it will be working that way now. We also want to be able to support siblings and being able to have their time together. And so we want to remove some of the barriers that have also been put in place for sibling relationships. And so all of that is straight across the board for everyone that is involved in child welfare. If the state believes that a visit needs to be supervised, they must come before the court, present the information to the court, and the court makes the final determination. But what I like about this is it serves as a roadmap, because once the department actually identifies what they believe to be the safety risk, then once that has been remedied, we are then back before the court to get to unsupervised. So we have been quite successful in that, and we're pretty excited about that. I also want to just put a little caveat in there that it's one thing to get a bill passed, it is another thing to get it implemented, and that my work and our work is not done. Part of our responsibility in passing laws is to make sure that they are implemented, and in a state system that sometimes falls short, the more that we're able to partner and provide them with innovative steps that are certainly actionable and easy to execute, the more likely we will see the overall vision of the bill realized. And so we still have our hands quite in the middle of how the state is working to enact this. This bill goes into operation July 25th, so they are a bit scrambling, but as I said, we have offered some information and ideas to help support them in being successful. The second bill we have is House Bill 1227, and I like to call this is we're no longer tinkering around the edges. Here in Washington State, across the country as well, there has been little to no real movement in the numbers of disproportionality. We recognize that the system itself targets families of color and those that are impoverished, and so we wanted a law that actually started to remedy those families that, you know, I will say that are targets. And so what we were able to do is get a law that heightens the removal standard. In the ICWA has language that says imminent physical harm. Washington statute had imminent risk. And imminent risk means let's look as far into the future as possible and make some assumptions about what's going to happen and make a decision based on that. The new law says, you know, what is the imminent physical harm? And when I use the word physical harm, I'm not just talking about, you know, physical. It's a little bit more broad than that. But what we were able to do is that in statute, and let's just use once again substance abuse. If you identify substance abuse as being the safety risk, you have to bring causal connection of how that actually will translate to physical harm. So now we actually are going to bring some evidence into a court hearing instead of hypothesis and what people think might happen. It will require the department to do a lot more work to be able to prove why they believe physical harm is imminent. And poverty and lack of housing, substance abuse, and even mental health. It is our objective to put as much prevention and keeping families together as possible. And we want the system to be activated in doing so. And so this law will help with that. The other part of the law also is we put some supports in for kinship. What we know is that kinship caregivers, you know, that all of the markers around the benefits and long-term success for families, that when children are placed with a family, that they do far better. And so here in Washington State, what we previously had was that if you had and I'll once again use myself as an example, you know, 10 years ago, I had a founded finding. My grandson needed a place to be, and the department objected to my grandson being in my care. And what I say is who I was 10 years ago does not say who I am today. The system itself also has a fail-safe that essentially targets certain families. And then when I want to be a resource to my family, you then disregard me as a potential of that. And so what we were able to do was to shift the burden. And so now the state has to prove me unsafe rather than me proving myself safe. And then the other piece that we were able to do is that, of course, we want to get children to kinship, but you know as well as I do that it costs a lot of money to raise some children. And so instead of giving all that money to strangers, let's get that money over to families. And so we were able to, in the initial licensing phase, which essentially means that a parent or a relative says that I'm willing to be licensed, but while they're working to be licensed, that they actually receive the foster care maintenance payment for 90 days while they work on being licensed. So that's 1227. And then Senate Bill 5151 put a child Pacific license. What we know is that, and I don't know if you've ever worked through going through licensure or home studies, but it is a job in itself while you're actually caring for children and, you know, maintaining your own life. And so the Child Pacific bill is designed for just the child that you will have home or is having your home. It's not a, you know, it's not an overall fostering license. The prior package had 40 pages. This now has 25. It is designed to streamline relatives so that they're able to get to their child and get licensed and feel like they're able to get the types of supports and benefits necessary. And then lastly is 1237. 1237 was the first step of an infrastructure that we are moving towards putting a family resource center infrastructure. Washington State needs about 300 of them. Currently, we've got about 125 of them. The vision is that we want government out and we want families and communities in. We want to be able to have that when you have a concern for a family, that you don't believe that calling CPS is the answer, but that you have a community robust response that is appropriately equipped to answer the needs. We also want to be able to have that once you make that call, and let's just say a family's in crisis, they have some concrete needs that need to be taken care of, that, you know, they have come, they need, you know, X, Y, Z supports, but instead of just answering the crisis, is there a way to actually help a family thrive? So can we house inside of a family resource center a navigator that actually knows how to get you to school, knows how to get you to workforce, knows how to access childcare? Instead of saying, here's 50 other places for you to go to, let's actually house that in one location so that families just not only get through crises, but we actually get them beyond survival and into thriving and being a part of that solution. I always like to say that, you know, 7.5 million concerned citizens made a call to CPS. And out of that 7.5 million, 260,000 of them actually met the threshold for child welfare services. That is a lot of time and a lot of energy to vet those calls. Let's put that money and that resource into the community so that we don't have supporters and they know how to support a family instead of reporting a family. And then I did have one, or I have actually two more things. Sorry, I said I didn't have any more, but I do. And then we were able to get $1.3 million into the budget for Family Connections. Families Connections is a program designed to bring parents and foster care givers together so that they can start working together, all for the betterment of actually each person that is supporting a family. We want to be able to create and preserve relationships. And so Family Connections now has been funded. And the last thing we were able to do was to get $2.5 million solely going out to community-based organizations for diapers and needs for children. So that, and not through the system, but through community-based organizations that will be able to address that needs immediately. So that's my list. I'm checking it twice. And I think Santa's coming this year because we killed them. They did not see us coming. It was amazing. So that's all I got. I'm gonna stick in the chat some of those bill numbers. If you care to know a bit more, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to be a support and just let you know how we were able to make all of this happen. So thank you.
Wow. Just wow. Thank you, Sharonda, for sharing about that. Impressive policy work in Washington. That was a lot. And it's all great information. A lot of us took a lot from that, and we will definitely have questions. It is incredible thinking how Parent Voice has helped to make this possible, make that possible, excuse me. And finally, I would like to ask Decoria to share a little about a project some of you in our network might recognize, and that is the Alliance Resiliency Project. Decoria.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Johnny. Yes, Decoria Jones out of Columbia, South Carolina, and I hope y'all are hearing me okay. Yes, Sharonda is amazing, and I want to be here when I grow up. So much policy is, it's a big thing, right? Thankful to have her on the team and glad to be on the team with her and all of the presenters today. Boy, those dads, man, I just want to, my heart just swells up so big. But I'm off topic. Let me get back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. All righty, so the Alliance Resiliency Project, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, right? Peer support is such a powerful process, and it's something that I know about firsthand. When the Alliance began the Resiliency Project, I was honored to be involved as a touchpoint parent. It started out, the Alliance Resiliency Project started out, as you see on the slide there, as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The importance of social connection and positive relationship is foundational, and the Alliance knows this. And not only do they know this, they also walk the walk, right? Because of this, more calls were made to check in and stay connected. So the Birth Parent National Network wanted to stay connected more frequently. That's all of the parents want to stay connected. And family needs were increasing for so many reasons, right? And of course, we know that connection, positive connections, and positive social connections are a protective factor. So as these conversations took place, it became evident that people needed a lot and deserved a lot to get through these uncertain times through, pandemic. Like, what? The Alliance convened a team of parents from the Birth Parent National Network, as well as the Birth and Foster Parent Partnership, and to talk through, how do we structure this? What is it gonna look like? How can we make this work out to help our network? I was certain that being a touchpoint parent would be a great way to connect with other birth parents, but I also knew that, and this through my own experience, and having received peer support and having provided peer support, that it was going to be a life enriching experience. So I was more than happy to step up and get on the touchpoint parent train, and it has been beautiful. Laughs, tears, friends for life, watching people grow, learn, and that includes myself, right? And growing and learning. It's been the definition of strengthening and what it feels like to embrace power. So to talk a little bit more about the parts of the Resiliency Project, as you can see right there, there's two of them, the touchpoint parents and the weekly caring conversations. So this all started back in the spring of 2020. And we are looking to kind of wrap this up now the end of next month, which is June. 2 points to the Resiliency Project. Touchpoint Parents Weekly Conversations. So the Touchpoint Parents are members of the Birth Parent National Network, or the Birth and Foster Parent Partnership, the BFPP, and we all wanted to set off on this journey together as touchpoint parents, right? So touchpoint parents, peer support. We are parents in the network, providing support to parents in the network. So touchpoint parents got connected to the other parents within the Birth Parent Network as they made requests to be matched up. So requests came in, yeah, I need somebody. So, what can we do? Some parents wanted to talk, to be heard, and to be supported. Others needed some concrete supports, like something happened and they needed some supports relatively quickly. And some needed both. So some needed, that connection, check-in, as well as those concrete supports. The pandemic and other challenges, wreak havoc on day to day, and having those supports and connections and relationships are extremely valuable. So in that work, touchpoint parents and parents, the connected parents, identify protective factors in action that the connected parents were working on and having, those tools in their toolbox, as well as protective factors that could be supported. And y'all know it's hard to talk about your needs. It's not impossible, but it's not the first thing that people tend to do, right? To say, hey, I need this, or I'm not doing so well in this area. But having those relationships with touchpoint parents, to help mitigate that resistance, because it was always, your touchpoint parent, you knew who they were, you knew you could go to them and they would be receptive and supportive. The Alliance Resiliency Project was never about identifying what's wrong, never about identifying what's wrong, but it was always about identifying what's strong and what, if anything, needed supports. As a touchpoint parent, one thing I will always hold on to is that how one phone call or one text can really make a difference. And I'm talking about from my experience. So just one text or one phone call or one conversation with my connected parents, it really did a lot for me. My experience, it's been heart stretching to bear witness to the strength and capacity and growth of others and myself. It's just really been, it's been amazing. And I cannot believe that it took such a thing as a pandemic, but I'm also thankful that at least there was something that we could do, right? And that we could be supportive and hold on to each other through this thing, like, how ants kind of navigate big waters, they kind of hold on to each other and float. So that's what we did. We kind of held on to each other and we floated, and we look at where we are now. So being a touchpoint parent, being involved with that was truly an honor and a life enriching event. The second key part to the Resiliency Project, as you see there, are those weekly caring conversations. Weekly on Monday afternoons, well, at least Eastern time was Monday afternoons. Some of y'all on the West Coast was a little bit early. But those meetings were to connect, share, to see other people, and to be seen. And that's important, right? We share from our hearts, opening ourselves to the encouragement and empowerment from others. I have laughed a lot. I have cried a lot. And I've even done laundry with moms and dads on these weekly calls. And I cannot tell you how great it is to have a laundry buddy. Laundry is one of those things, man. One of those things. But not just the ones in my neighborhood that I see at the Food Lion or the, ice machine, that I see that they're national parents that I've been able to meet through the caring conversations. And I don't know about you all, but having friends nationally, connecting with like minds nationally, hearing about what other states and regions are doing, it is just mind blowing. And it is also encouraging, and it also feeds a little fire, to that advocacy, to that passion of, what we do. Like, oh, check out Oregon. How can we, what is this in South Carolina? Oh, check out, Georgia. What are they doing over there? Have you heard about Washington State? Man, look at that. So that is such a value, that national network. It's transformational. So I really enjoyed that, and I hope you all have too. The shifts in my own thinking and feeling are not so easy. I can't really put it in words. It's really like nebulous, but the strength of spirit that I've gained through the caring conversations, it's undeniable. It really is. It's undeniable. A national group of like-minded, determined, informed, loving folks that help each other. I mean, talk about iron sharpens iron. What better kind of iron to be around than those like-minded, determined, informed, and loving folks like you all. And I kind of feel like most of y'all have been in a caring conversation. So I really appreciate that. It is beautifully strong and beautifully resilient, and those caring conversations will always be a part of me. So that's the Alliance Resiliency Project. But as parent leaders, that you all are here today, as parent leaders, I want you to think about taking what you've heard here today, back to your work. And as you're thinking about it, peer support, how, that really works. How having dedicated concrete supports for parents, how that lifts that burden you know, how poverty is and hard times are always connected with negligence and abuse. We don't need that. So when you're talking to your state and you're looking at the works that are going on in your areas, don't leave this little pocket of knowledge that you've gotten and you know, from the touchpoint parent and the caring conversation. Don't just leave that with the Alliance. It's possible, right? You have been a part of it. You know it can be done. So speak to it. Share your experience. I mean, if you weren't a touchpoint parent or a connected parent, that's okay. You know somebody. You know, reach out. You know, the Alliance has data and other information, shared experiences. We'd love to kind of assist in any way possible. So do reach out and talk about it, be about it. You know it works. And where am I in my notes? Let me check. And the data on the structured peer support, it's right here. Data on providing direct concrete supports, it's right here. How it can be managed, you know, all of that is right here. So this is something that we've done. So we've done this connecting and this humanity building with touchpoint parents and caring conversations, but that didn't just stop there, right? We know it can work. We know it has happened. We've done it since spring of 2020. So when you're doing your work in your states, let them know that the Alliance has done it and it can be done. We're all in this together, right? So I want to say thank you all for that. It can be done and we know it works. And you can say it with much positive effect. You know, when you're out here doing your work, I know it can be done. It has been done. And we can do this together. It works. So take this information back to your state's child abuse prevention agency, your CBCAP. If you're not sure, there's a website called Friends. It's capital. And if you need some more information, y'all know how to get in touch with any of us on the panel or Kara or anyone at the Alliance, or your state trust fund, your state children's trust fund agency. They can help you with those things. So Johnny, I believe it's yours.
Wow, Takoria, thank you. Thank you so much. The Resiliency Project has touched a lot of lives, and I know those caring conversations have been a special space for so many, even if they can only be in listen-only mode. I just want to thank everyone and say how much we appreciate you sharing so much valuable and informative information with us. You truly inspire all of us and remind us of how impactful parent voices can be. Let's see if there are any questions in the chat. Kara, do we have any questions?
I know that I mentioned to Dustin and David of what are their thoughts on trying to bring this to action, this piece of getting that space for fathers. Dustin or David, do you have anything on that as we wait for some more questions to come in?
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. You know, from the community aspect, I think it's just like how we treat and look at dads, right? From a child welfare aspect, from a lot of it comes down to case practice. Being able to be transparent, to be honest, and use direct communication with dads from the beginning of the case is really important. From the beginning of a case, everything's set up under a mom's name, no matter the situation or how it is. So, and there's a backup plan. You know, the part I like to see change. I got a spotlight on myself, and that's really weird to do. Okay, there's a backup plan for adoption or guardianship, a concurrent plan, but there's not a concurrent plan for the other parent if parents aren't together. And I'm not going to be gender specific, but if there's a plan for one parent for reunification, there's not a backup plan for that. That's something I'd like to see change, to really be to look at both parents as parents, and being able to have dads be involved in their own case planning and family planning.
Great, thanks.
Kara, this is Robin. Can I just say something?
Yeah,
real quick
absolutely. Jump in.
So what it's so inspiring, Dave and Dustin and all of you. I just wanted to mention, maybe you've heard that in our local county, Jody Rogers and I came back from one of our amazing BFPP sessions and created a fathers group. Now this fathers group is so much needed. There's no support for dads around here. And those of you who are dads, Timothy and everybody, all these people on the call, you know, we've been reaching out to you for support. But what we are is two women facilitating a dad's group because we don't get any support for the group. Child welfare would run it a completely different way than how the dads want it. So I was thinking it would be great if we had some kind of a larger, you know, I hear about these great fatherhood initiatives and advisory boards. It would be great, you know, for dads to really have some kind of a format or something through the alliance that we could all click into to say, oh, here's what we need to do. What should we do in this situation? Does anybody have a resource for this dad who's going through family court now? You know, and somewhere where the dads could eventually reach out too, because we just keep getting stuck at a brick wall where this dad needs help. And frankly, we're two women sitting in there. We have a lot to offer, but then it stops. But there aren't any dads like you ready to take on that leadership role. They're still very involved with getting through their case. So it's really exciting. I love the idea of the support for dads to be with their children in rehab too. We're trying to figure out how to start that movement in our county. So thank you for all the great advice. But yeah, I think we just need to create somewhere where folks can, you know, reach out and say, help, what works. And so really, thank you for all that. I'm going to share this with the dads. They're going to love it.
Hey, Kara, I saw we have a question in the chat box. It is, I believe it's directed towards Dustin and David. Do you have any information on how many dads are involved with child welfare? How many single dads?
I do not. I would invite, I think there might be a couple other Fathers Advisory Board members on here. If they know that answer, I will pass it to them, but I do not know that answer.
This is Jessica. That was my question because data is just such a critical piece. And I thought it would be helpful to say, because you're right, everything seems geared toward moms. And we know that there are a lot of single moms who end up involved in the system because of the struggle. But it would be really helpful to say, you know, 50% of the cases, you know, generally, have dads involved. And then if you break it down to single dads, which might need a little extra support, and 25%, and I just made those numbers up, you know, 25% of the cases involve single dads. Well, that's a huge argument for legislators, for community organizations, to take to the Rotary, to talk about the support that single dads or dads need, just as men involved with a system geared toward women and mothers. You know, not necessarily a bad thing, just this is the focus and how can we give some extra support. So I would be really interested in having or finding out, you know, what those stats look like. And I am going to ask somebody at DHS if they have any of that information, but I don't know if they'll have it. They, you know, they're notorious for not keeping information on things they don't want to know about. You know.
So this is Greg Cusson. I'm also part of the Fathers Advisory Board. I'm a program director at Volunteers of America, and have been part of this for several years, and it's been great. To answer your question, Jessica, you hit it on the head. Getting that information is not easy, and it is something that would be really great to get, but we have not been able to obtain that information. And you know, that's one of the reasons Dustin had alluded to earlier, the survey that we had put out there to get information, because to get any kind of information regarding fathers and, you know, them in the system, child welfare has been very difficult for us to get and to pull any. We looked all over the place and really got nowhere quick. And that's why we started off with just the simplest of things, just to start with something. It's been a big frustration for us.
Thank you. And
No,
by the way, I just have to say, I love the acronym for you guys. Yes, I'm here with FAB. I just love it. As in short for fabulous.
I agree with that, Jessica, wholeheartedly. I have to share, as a mom, it is several Birth Parent National Network dads who have taught me as a mom how to give my husband space. And I can tell you, just from hearing the dads talk today, all of them who have spoken today, they have a lot to share and a lot to offer. And so as we think about, there's no data, we need some more information. As a Birth Parent National Network, as members, let's start figuring out, where is that data? Where do we start? Where are a couple people? As Robin shared, having a fathers group, what's next? Like, how do we help build space for fathers to get the skills so that they can lead these groups and do this amazing work? So excellent, excellent. This is what our network's about, hearing these ideas, sharing, and it is so important to be doing. I want to share, Johnny, somebody in the chat was asking some questions about, like, how does the peer support work? Like, how do they get it in their community? I'm wondering if Takoria wants to share a little bit about what her thoughts are. If somebody wants something like the Resiliency Project in their community, what might they do?
Don't stop. Be determined. Find those people that get in touch with your CVCAP, your state's Children's Trust Fund. You be encouraged to hold them to the fire, because this is not a new thing, right? We're not talking about something that's never been heard before. And if you as parents need it, then us group of 50 some odd people here, then there, good and well that there are more and more and more people. So be determined and use your voice and amplify it to include everyone. Just don't stop, because there is resistance, but that's just part of the process, right? There's going to be resistance. There's a lot of information about peer support programs, even if you think about something as simple as tutoring. I mean, I think everybody, when you went to school, somebody helped you with your math homework, or you asked them, that's junior peer support. And it just goes all the way up. Medical conditions, coming out of addictions, all of that has got peer support behind it. So just, email me, and I will do my best to send you some stuff. But the biggest piece of advice is just to be determined and stay encouraged. And if you know it's good, do not let anybody tell you it's not. So thanks. I can talk about it all day.
Johnny, go ahead and step in. Thanks, Takoria.
Speaking on his part, I know the call wasn't focused on fatherhood, but Dustin and David did such an amazing job talking on it. And that's one of the things that I do here in San Diego, is run a peer group. And it's a group run by fathers just like myself that I facilitate on a weekly basis. We do it every Wednesday. We come in, we used to do in-person groups, but after the pandemic hit, we've transitioned to Zoom, and we've been continually doing it on Zoom every single Wednesday, every single week. And fathers just come together. And it was Takoria that told me that acknowledged something earlier this week, that one of the biggest difficulties with fatherhood engagement is the piece that Robin was talking about they need something to connect to. A father can't connect to a group that has a majority of mothers. A father needs to connect with a group that has more fathers in it. And a group most likely run by a father will include more fathers. So that, moving forward towards that engagement and inclusiveness, we can, work on that aspect, just get the one father in it, and you can get a lot more other fathers. But again, I want to thank all the presenters. I'm going to turn it back over to Kara, but I mean, my head is full from Shonda and Takoria as well, and I'm thankful for that. Go ahead, Kara.
Thanks, Johnny. I have to totally agree with you. There has been so much good information shared today, not only with our presenters and our incredible panelists, but also really from all of you in the chat. You all have great dreams. Keep dreaming them. Remember, that's why we're a network, to help support each other, to help think bigger, to have that encouragement and that boost. And I'm hoping today provided that for all of you. I do want you to save the dates. Our next Caring Conversation webinar that you heard many people talking about in the chat, and you heard Decoria sharing about, is going to be on Monday, June 7th. And you might say, Kara, well, what about next Monday? Monday, the end of May, and well, that's Memorial Day. And so we decided to take a day off, give everybody a break. Hopefully everyone can have some time to just relax a little bit and gear up for the next half of the year. But join us on Monday, June 7th for that. And then our next BPNN webinar to keep on your calendar is going to be Thursday, August 26th. We look forward to having you hopefully join us. As always, please, please, please go ahead and do the evaluation. It got dropped in the chat several times. I encourage you to complete that. We want to hear from you because we want to know what's going on. And as I shared when I talked about Family Voices United, I want to know, are you engaged in Family First in your state? If not, that's absolutely fine if that's not your passion, but I want to know for those that it is their passion. I want to know what it is you're all up to so we can help support you with the content we provide in each of these quarterly webinars. And also as you're helping to bring in new members, as many of you have talked about today. So I just want to thank every single one of you, and I'm going to pass it to Meryl now to help us get ready to close out, as those of you might be finishing your evaluation. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kara. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's been on this call today. I found it to be so inspiring. Our presenters were just fantastic. But I really have to say to you that today's webinar really truly represented why we established in partnership, the Alliance established in partnership with Casey Family Programs, the Birth Parent National Network. It really today was truly representative of an opportunity where we were seeing how parents are helping to inform policy and practice change all across the country, thanks to all of the sharing, Sharonda, that you did today. Also, just the sharing and learning and innovative ideas that were happening from the father perspective, what these fathers are doing in the state of Oregon. Reaching out to each and every one of you, seeing the networking that is really happening all across our BPNN family and members. And we hope that we can continue to build the network, not only with parents, but with organizations that are interested in supporting parent voice all across the country. And most importantly, it's just so exciting to learn from one another. I learn every time I participate in one of these webinars, and I just say thank you to all of you. We look forward to ideas, other topic areas that you might be interested in the future. Clearly, it sounds like fatherhood initiatives and ways that we're working in different states with fathers, maybe a big topic opportunity. Also the resiliency project, and then just informing policy and practice. So thank you. And again, although I don't think Lauren is still on, she did a great job also in terms of sharing with us the latest information about public policy. So I thank you to every one of you, and we look forward to having you join us for our next webinar, which will be on August 26th. And please remember to fill out the evaluation, because that is really helpful for us as we move forward in the future. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.